Voyager 2, one of the most resilient spacecraft ever launched by humanity, has been journeying through the uncharted expanse of interstellar space for decades. Since its launch in 1977, few anticipated it would survive this long, let alone continue transmitting valuable data. Against all expectations, it pushed through the heliopause, the boundary where the solar wind yields to the interstellar medium, and ventured deeper into the void. Its signals became increasingly fragmented and cryptic over time, yet they still conveyed astonishingly rich information. Then, in what felt like a moment scripted by the cosmos itself, Voyager to send a final set of images before its instruments began shutting down. The content of these images rippled through the global scientific community and cast a chill across the world, not merely because of what was seen, but because of what those visuals might imply. The last images sent by Voyager 2 were not spectacular. In the traditional sense, they showed no explosions, no colorful nebulae. Instead, what they revealed was far more unsettling. As its narrow-angle camera strained to capture light at the outermost edge of our solar system, it recorded an anomaly and unnatural formation in deep space. This remote region had always been considered a desolate void, devoid of significant structure, yet the probe captured something geometric, repeating and distinctly patterned. Some researchers described it as a lattice. Others dubbed it a void grid, a collection of massive structures spaced with startling precision. What disturbed scientists most wasn't just the existence of these formations, but how they appeared in the images. They were not static. Over several frames, the structures seemed to move, not drifting passively like natural celestial bodies, but with purpose, as if reacting to the probe's presence. Soon after, Voyager 2's magnetometer detected magnetic fluctuations far too intense to be caused by solar interference. Regular, oscillating distortions matched the region captured in the imagery. The implications were immediate and profound. Voyager 2 may have encountered artificial constructs in interstellar space, perhaps functioning systems, machines, or gateways of a scale so vast they defied human comprehension. These weren't decaying relics of some long-lost civilization. They seemed active, immense, and invisible unless viewed under extremely specific conditions. The scientific community was stunned. The patterns did not resemble planetary rings, asteroid belts, or star clusters. There was no notable light emission or gravitational lensing. The structure's precision and symmetry defied known astrophysical models. Within the research teams, an idea began to take hold, quietly at first, then more openly. This might be evidence of non-human intelligence, not via radio waves or stray energy signals, but through tangible, physical presence, massive constructs hidden in the darkness between stars. Before a consensus could form, the data stream from Voyager 2 began to falter. The images became noisy, then incomplete. A final burst of data showed a spike in magnetic activity accompanied by a brief, inexplicable pulse of radiation, then silence. The spacecraft's systems continued to emit a heartbeat signal, but its instruments stopped responding. It was as if something had decided the probe had seen enough, or been allowed to see just enough. What remained was a haunting archive of raw data and eerie images that would become the most hotly debated scientific materials of the modern era. Spectral analysis of the radiation pulse revealed strange harmonic structured layers embedded within the noise. These weren't random emissions. They carried repeating frequencies that aligned suspiciously well with prime number intervals, sparking speculation about mathematical intent. This, in turn, fractured the scientific community. Some dismissed the anomalies as artifacts from aging instruments battered by extreme space environments. But even the skeptics struggled to explain the coherence of the patterns, the timing of the distortions, or the intentionality suggested by the harmonics. Faulty hardware does not generate symmetrical structures or frequency patterns aligned with prime numbers. Outside the labs, public reaction was one of anxious awe. The leaked images, enhanced and interpreted by amateur astronomers, spread rapidly. What they depicted wasn't threatening in a conventional sense. The formations didn't move toward Earth. They issued no signals. They simply existed, vast, motionless, and utterly incomprehensible. That silence was, in itself, terrifying. It challenged our most basic assumptions about the universe. If these were indeed products of intelligence, why were they located so far from any star or resource-rich system? Theories like Dyson spheres had long suggested that megastructures would be built around stars to harness energy, but these constructs appeared to exist far beyond such needs. They hinted at a type of presence, perhaps intelligence, that operated on principles utterly foreign to human understanding. One of the images, the final high-contrast capture of geometric shapes suspended in the interstellar dark, began circulating widely. It appeared in news broadcasts, scientific debates, and fringe communities alike. Theories bloomed. Were these surveillance devices, ancient beacons, dimensional gates, or mere monuments? And amid the speculation, a grim consensus emerged. Humanity wasn't ready, not emotionally, philosophically, or technologically. We had sent a probe into the dark to listen. Something out there had whispered back, not in words, but through an overwhelming, silent presence. As analysis deepened, earlier telemetry was re-examined. It turned out Voyager had experienced subtle trajectory changes in the months leading to the encounter. Tiny course corrections previously dismissed as statistical anomalies now appeared intentional. Modeling suggested these nudges had pulled the spacecraft closer to the anomaly. This eerie revelation raised an unsettling idea that something may have guided Voyager toward the encounter. That implied not only awareness, but control. For those who had long believed in an indifferent, passive universe, the idea was deeply disturbing. Voyager 2's instruments had been designed for simpler tasks, measuring magnetic fields, photographing distant planets. But in its final moments, it became something more, a sentinel at the edge of known space, bearing witness to a structure or system that defied our understanding. Some analysts noticed something even stranger in the last image frame. Beyond the lattice, a new shape had begun to emerge, curved, organic, perhaps even moving. It was indistinct and blurred, but its presence hinted at a scale far beyond anything previously captured. If the grid was architecture, this shape was something else entirely, something watching, or perhaps arriving. Efforts to relocate the region using Earth-based and orbital observatories failed. The coordinates were too distant and the structures emitted too little energy to be detected. Voyager had been in the right place at the right time, with just enough power left to glimpse something through a half-open cosmic doorway. The silence that followed frightened researchers even more than the images themselves. Voyager didn't explode. It didn't vanish. Its instruments simply stopped, as if shut down with purpose. What remained was a mechanical heartbeat. Sign it was still there, drifting, waiting. With the probe's data secured in high-security archives, one question continued to echo: what had we seen? And more importantly, why had it been shown to us? There were no answers, only data. Cold, cryptic, and filled with implications that suggested humanity is part of a cosmic story far older and larger than we ever imagined. Following the final transmission, the scientific world shifted from awe to urgency. The focus turned toward understanding, triangulating Voyager 2's last position, studying the frames, deciphering the signal. This wasn't a cover-up, it was a scramble to interpret an event that might redefine our place in the universe. But the challenge was daunting. At over 12 billion miles from Earth, the smallest miscalculation in orientation meant Voyager's camera have captured objects light years apart. Scientists were chasing not just a region of space, but a fleeting angle, and ephemeral corridor that might never reappear. There was another possibility. What if the anomaly was moving? The grid-like formation, while appearing fixed, might have been part of a mobile system drifting through interstellar space with purpose. If so, Voyager's images were merely a snapshot of a transient phenomenon. This idea gained support from previously dismissed data, subtle irregularities in the cosmic microwave background that now seemed to align with Voyager's final direction. These faint ripples hinted at a gravitational presence, an invisible current subtly warping space, guiding objects in ways not yet understood. Further analysis of the grid's geometry revealed patterns with no parallel in natural formation. Using advanced modeling and AI-assisted simulation, physicists found the structure resembled a form of logic, a three-dimensional architecture that acted more like a processor than a monument. It contained repeating nodes, perfect gaps, and connector spans arranged like a kind of spatial code. It wasn't just a structure. It might have been computing executing something on a scale beyond our comprehension. Governments and agencies around the world took notice not to suppress the findings, but to protect and verify them. The data was distributed to major space agencies, leading research institutions, and select observatories under tight confidentiality. The concern was accuracy. A mistake in interpretation could derail scientific progress for decades.